Hello, good morning. I'm here to present History of Computers from CCS0002L from Emmanuel Denes Bunyag from Class 1A. The history of computers, the first term of it, came from the book From the Young Man's Leaning, 1613 book. I have seek read the truest computer of times, and the best arithmetician that's and he reduceth thy days into a short number. It is written by the English writer Richard Braithwaite. The first computers came from the first substantial computer was the giant ENIAC machine by John W. Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert at the University of Pennsylvania. ENIAC, or Electrical Numerical Integrator and Calculator, used a word of 10 decimal digits instead of binary ones like previous automated calculators/computers. ENIAC was also the first machine to use more than 2,000 vacuum tubes, using nearly 18,000 vacuum tubes. Storage of all those vacuum tubes and the machinery required to keep them cool took up over 167 square meters, 1,800 square feet of floor space. Nonetheless, it had punch card input and output and arithmetically had one multiplier, one divider, square rooter, and 20 others employing decimal ring counters, which serves as adders and also as quick access of 0.0002 seconds read-writers storage. Here is the image of what ENIAC looks like in the 1940s. This wire-on instruction technique is inconvenient, and only with some license would ENIAC be considered programmable. It was, however, efficient in handling the particular programs for which it had been designed. ENIAC is generally acknowledged to be the first successful high-speed electronic digital computer, EDC, and was productively used from 1946 to 1955. A controversy developed in 1971, however, over the patentability of ENIAC's basic digital concepts, the claim being made that another US physicist, John V. Atanasov, had already used the same ideas in a simpler vacuum tube device he built in the 1930s while at Iowa State College. In 1973, the court found in favor of the company using Atanasov's claim, and Atanasov received the acclaim he rightly deserved. The progression of hardware. In the 1950s, two devices would be invented that would improve the computer field and set in motion the beginning of the computer revolution. The first of these devices was the transistor, invented in 1947 by William Shockley, John Bardeen, and Walter Brattain of Bell Labs. The transistor was fated to oust the days of vacuum tubes in computers, radios, and other electronics. The vacuum tube, used up to this time, is almost all the computers and calculated machines, had been invented by American physicist Lee D. Forrest in 1906. The vacuum tube, which is about the size of a human thumb, worked by using large amounts of electricity to heat a filament inside the tube until it was cherry red. One result of heating the filament up was the release of electrons into the tube, which could be controlled by other elements within the tube. De Forest's original device was a triode, which could control the flow of electrons to a positively charged plate inside the tube. A zero could then be represented by the absence of an electron current to the plate. The presence of a small but detectable current to the plate represented a 1. This is the image of a vacuum tube. Vacuum tubes were highly inefficient, required a great deal of space, and needed to be replaced often. Computers of the 1940s and 50s had 18,000 tubes in them, and housing all these tubes and cooling the room from the heat produced by 18,000 tubes was not cheap. From mainframes to PCs. The 1960s saw large mainframe computers become much more common in large industries, and with the US military and space program, IBM became the unquestioned market leader in selling these large, expensive, error-prone, and very hard-to-use machines. A veritable explosion of personal computers occurred in the early 1970s, starting with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak exhibiting the first Apple II at the first West Coast Computer Fair in San Francisco. The Apple II boasted built-in basic programming language, color graphics, and a 4,100 character memory for about $1,298. Programs and data could be stored on an everyday audio cassette recorder. Before the end of the fair, Wozniak and Jobs had secured 300 orders for the Apple II, and from there, Apple just took off. The TRS-80 Model II in 1977, also introduced in 1977, was the TRS-80. This was a home computer manufactured by Tandy Radio Shack. In its second incarnation, the TRS-80 Model II came complete with 64K character memory and a disk drive to store programs and data on. At this time, only Apple and TRS had machines with disk drives. With the introduction of the disk drive, personal computer applications took off as a floppy disk was a most convenient publishing medium for distribution of software. And this is Apple II. IBM, which up to this time had been producing mainframes and mini-computers for medium to large-sized businesses, decided it had been to get into the act and started working on the Acorn, which would later be called the IBM PC. The PC was the first computer designed for the home market, which would feature modular design so that the pieces could easily be added to the architecture. And by 1984, Apple and IBM had come out with new models. Apple released the first generation's Macintosh, which was the first computer to come up with a graphical user interface, GUI, and a mouse. The GUI made the machine much more attractive to home computer users because it was easy to use. Sales of the Macintosh soared like nothing ever seen before. IBM was hot on Apple's tail and released the 8680, which with applications like Lotus 123, a spreadsheet, and Microsoft Word quickly became the favorite of business concerns. Now people have their own personal graphics workstation and powerful home computers. The average computer a person might have in their home is more powerful by several orders of magnitude than a machine like ENIAC. The computer revolution has been the fastest growing technology in man's history. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a nice day.